Picture this scenario. You have a credit card with a $5,000 limit. You spend $2,000 on furniture. You have the cash in the bank and you plan to pay it off completely. You wait for the bill to arrive, and the moment it hits your inbox, you pay the full balance. You pay zero interest. You are a responsible borrower. And yet, 3 days later, you get an alert on your phone. Your credit score just dropped 25 points. You did everything right, but the algorithm punished you anyway. This happens to thousands of people every single month, and it is usually because of a fundamental misunderstanding of one specific date on the calendar. Today, I'm going to show you how the banking system actually takes its snapshot of your finances, and how moving your payment by just 48 hours can be the difference between a good score and an exceptional one. This is Tom Talks Money, where we try to outsmart the financial systems that are usually designed to outsmart us. Today, we are doing a deep dive into credit utilization. This is arguably the fastest lever you can pull to change your credit score. Payment history takes years to build. Hard inquiries take 2 years to fall off. But utilization? That resets almost instantly if you know how to manipulate the data reporting. We are going to cover exactly when banks report your balance, why paying in full is not the same as having a zero balance, and the specific target percentages you need to hit for the algorithm. Before we get into the calendar math, do me a favour. If you want to see more deep dives on the mechanics of money, hit that subscribe button. It is the best return on investment for your time on this platform. Let's start with the trap that catches almost everyone. We are trained from a young age that the due date is the most important day in our financial lives. And in terms of not losing money, that is true. If you pay by the due date, you avoid interest and late fees. But here is the friction point. We assume that the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, are watching a live feed of our bank accounts. We assume that if we pay off our debt on the 15th, the bureau knows we are debt-free on the 16th. But that is not how the plumbing works. The credit scoring system is not a movie. It is a series of photographs. And unfortunately for many responsible people, the photographer usually takes the picture right when your room is the messiest, days before you actually clean it up. Here is the actual timeline of a credit card cycle. It is vital you visualize this. Let's say your billing cycle runs from the 1st to the 30th of the month. During those 30 days, you are swiping for groceries, gas, and dinner. Your balance is climbing. On the 30th, the cycle closes. The bank generates a statement, that PDF bill you get in your email. This is the critical moment, the statement closing date. The balance on that specific piece of paper is the number the bank sends to the credit bureaus. It gets hard-coded into your credit report for that month. But your due date isn't until usually 25 days later. So you might have a balance of $3,000 on the 30th, which gets reported to the bureau, even if you pay it all off on the 20th of the next month. The bureau sees high utilization, even though you paid perfectly on time. This creates a massive psychological disconnect. You feel responsible because your bank account shows money leaving to pay the bill, but the credit report looks like you are maxing out your cards. I have talked to people who are terrified of using their credit cards because every time they make a big purchase, their score tanks, even though they have the cash to cover it. They start thinking the system is rigged against them, or that credit cards are inherently dangerous. It's not that the system is broken, it's just bureaucratic. The system is lagging. It is reporting yesterday's news. You are living in real time, but your credit score is living on a 30-day delay based on a snapshot taken before you made your payment. If you don't control when that snapshot is taken, you are letting the bank dictate your creditworthiness based on your worst day of the month. The solution is what we call the statement date hack. although it's less of a hack and more of a timing adjustment. Instead of waiting for the bill to arrive and then paying it, you need to pay the bill before it is generated. You want to pay down your balance 3 or 4 days before the statement closing date. If you do this, when the statement closes on the 30th, the bill generates showing a balance of, say, $10. That $10 balance is what gets sent to the bureaus. Suddenly, the snapshot they receive shows you using almost none of your credit. Then, on the due date 3 weeks later, you just pay that remaining $10. You use the card normally, but the record shows you barely touched your limit. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, doesn't it really matter if they report $1,000 or $10 as long as I pay it? You might assume the difference is just a point or two. If that's what you think, you are underestimating the algorithm significantly. Crossing the wrong utilization threshold can tank your score faster than almost anything else short of a missed payment. We need to look at exactly how heavy this weight is. Let's look at the FICO pie chart. We know payment history is the biggest slice at 35%. That makes sense. Did you pay your bills? But the second biggest slice, coming in at a massive 30%, is amounts owed. This is almost entirely driven by your credit utilization ratio. Think about that. Nearly 1/3 of your financial reputation is based solely on how much of your available credit you are using right now. It is weighted heavier than the length of your credit history. It is weighted heavier than your mix of credit types. You could have a perfect 10-year history, but if you max out your cards for 1 month, that 30% slice of the pie crumbles, and your score drags down with it. It is highly sensitive and highly volatile. The math here is simple division, but the impact is tiered. Utilization is your current balance divided by your credit limit. If you owe $500 on a $1,000 card, you are at 50%. The scoring models generally hate anything above 30%. That is the first major cliff. If you cross 30%, you look like a risk. If you cross 50%, you look like a crisis. And if you max it out near 100%, your score goes into freefall. But here is the nuance. This applies to both your overall credit utilization, all your cards combined, and your individual card utilization. You could have $50,000 in total available credit, but if you have one single card with a $500 limit that is maxed out, your score will suffer. The algorithm flags that one maxed out account as a sign of distress. I call this the panic zone. I've seen people with 800 credit scores drop into the 740s just because they booked a family vacation on a card with a low limit. They didn't miss a payment. They didn't apply for a new loan. They just let the utilization spike cross a threshold on the statement date. The panic sets in because most people don't know why it happened. They check their app, see the drop, and assume identity theft or a banking error. The reality is just the cold math of the 30% weighting kicking in. The system views high utilization as a precursor to default. Historically, people who max out cards are more likely to go broke, so the score adjusts to reflect that risk immediately. The good news is that utilization has no memory in the most common scoring models, like FICO 8. This is unlike a missed payment, which haunts you for 7 years. Utilization is what we call memoryless. As soon as a new balance is reported, the old one is forgotten. If you are at 90% utilization in January and your score tanked, but you pay it down to 5% in February, your score will bounce back as if the 90% never happened. This is why the statement date hack is so powerful. You aren't fixing a permanent scar, you are just correcting the current data point. You can fix a utilization issue in 30 days or less. So, logically, you might think the goal is to get your reported balance to 0 every single month. If low is good, 0 must be perfect, right? I'm going to tell you to stop right there. Consistently reporting a $0 balance across every single card can actually result in a lower score than reporting a small balance. It sounds crazy, but the system penalizes you for looking like a ghost. This is one of the most stubborn myths in the credit world. People wear the zero balance badge with pride. They pay everything off 3 days early, so the statement reads $0.00. While this is great for your peace of mind, it confuses the FICO algorithm. The scoring model is designed to assess how you manage debt. If your report shows $0 owed month after month, year after year, the model has no data on how you handle repayment. It looks like you aren't using your credit at all. In the eyes of the algorithm, a person who doesn't use credit is slightly riskier than a person who uses it responsibly. You aren't demonstrating the behavior they want to score. To maximize your score, you want to be in the sweet spot. My FICO data suggests that high achievers, people with 850 scores, average about a 4% to 7% utilization rate. They don't have 0%, they have a small, manageable balance reported. There is a strategy for this called ASIO, all 0 except 1. The idea is that if you have 5 credit cards, you pay 4 of them to $0 before the statement date. For the 5th card, you pay it down so that it reports a tiny balance, maybe $10 or $20, or roughly 1% of the limit. This tells the algorithm, yes, I am using credit, but yes, I am keeping it extremely low. This specific mathematical state triggers the highest possible points for the amounts owed category. I know what you are thinking. Tom, if I leave a balance, I'm going to pay interest. And this is where the terminology trips people up. Reporting a balance is not the same as carrying a balance. Remember the timeline. The statement closes on the 30th with a $10 balance. That gets reported. You have until the due date, usually the 20th of the next month, to pay that $10. As long as you pay that $10 by the due date, you pay 0 interest. You get the credit score boost of showing activity, and you get the financial benefit of paying no interest. You are threading the needle between the reporting date and the due date. So, here is the protocol for the perfectionists. If you are applying for a mortgage next month and you need every single point possible, don't go to 0 flat. Go to 1%. Pay down your primary card so that when the statement cuts, it shows a trivial amount. Buy a coffee or leave $10 on there. Ensure every other card is at 0. This provides the active use signal without the risk signal. However, if you aren't applying for a mortgage soon, don't stress about the ASIO method perfectly. Just keeping your utilization below 10% naturally is usually enough to stay in the 760 plus range. But if you want that 800, you need to manage the 1%. We have the theory down. You pay before the statement cuts. But here is where people mess it up in practice. They rely on autopay. If you have autopay set up to pay statement balance, you have already lost the game. Autopay is designed to keep you from being late. It is not designed to optimize your score. If you want to use this hack, you have to turn off the autopilot and take manual control. Step 1 is information gathering. You need to know the statement closing date for every card you own. This is not always obvious in the mobile app. Often, the app screams the due date at you because they want you to pay. To find the closing date, you usually have to go to the Statements tab and actually open a PDF of a past bill. Look for Billing Cycle Ends or Next Closing Date. Put these dates in your calendar as recurring monthly events. If your card closes on the 15th, set a reminder for the 13th. That 2-day buffer is crucial because ACH transfers from your bank can sometimes take a day or two to clear and post to your account. Step 2 is the math. On the 13th, your reminder day, Log in and look at your current balance. Let's say it is $800. If you want to report a $10 balance, you manually push a payment of $790 right then and there. Do not wait for autopay. Initiate the transfer. This drops your current balance to $10, pending the transaction clearing. When the 15th rolls around and the computer generates your statement, it sees $10. That is the number that flies off to Experian. You have successfully curated your credit report. You manipulated the snapshot. Step 3 is the cleanup. After the statement closes and you get that email saying your statement is ready, open it. It should say, new balance, $10. Minimum due, $10. Now, you just need to ensure that $10 gets paid before the due date, which is likely 20 days later. If you have autopay set to pay statement balance, it should, theoretically, pull that $10 automatically on the due date. However, I always recommend manually checking it the first few times you try this. You don't want to be so clever with your utilization that you accidentally miss a payment and trade a temporary score boost for a permanent late fee penalty. A quick note on consistency. You don't need to do this for every card every month unless you are actively grooming your score for a loan. It is high maintenance. I personally only do this micromanagement style when I know I'm going to apply for something in the next 60 days. For the rest of the year, I just keep my utilization generally low, under 10 or 20%, and let autopay handle the rest. Your score will fluctuate naturally, and that is fine. The point of this hack is that you have a lever you can pull on demand to maximize your score exactly when you need it. There is, however, a way to abuse this that can get your accounts shut down. It's called credit cycling. If you have a $1,000 limit and you spend $1,000, pay it off mid-month, spend another $1,000, pay it off, and spend another $1,000, you have technically used $3,000 of credit on a $1,000 limit. You might think the bank loves you for this. You'd be wrong. To a bank's risk department, this looks like money laundering or bust-out fraud. Credit cycling is when you cycle through your credit limit multiple times within a single billing period. While paying down your balance before the statement date is good, doing it repeatedly to artificially extend your credit limit is dangerous. If you have a $1,000 limit, banks generally expect you to spend up to $1,000 a month. If you are spending $3,000 a month by paying it off every week, you are circumventing their risk tolerance. They gave you a $1,000 limit for a reason. That is how much exposure they want to have with you. By cycling, you are forcing them to take on more transaction volume than they agreed to. This can trigger a financial review, where they freeze your accounts and ask for tax returns, or they might just close your account entirely. To avoid looking like a risk, keep your spending roughly within your credit limit for that month, even if you are paying it down early. If you find yourself constantly hitting your limit and needing to pay it down just to use the card again, you don't need a payment hack, you need a credit limit increase. Call the issuer and ask for a higher limit. Explain that you pay in full every month and you need more room for daily expenses. Higher limits make utilization management much easier. If you have a $20,000 limit, spending $2,000 is only 10% utilization. You don't even have to use the hack. You are naturally in the excellent range. We also need to look at the future of scoring. Most lenders currently use FICO 8, which is the snapshot model we discussed. It forgets the past. But newer models like FICO 10T use trended data. They look at your balance history over the last 24 months. If you historically run up huge balances and only pay them down at the last second, FICO 10T might see that trend. While the statement date hack still works for the utilization component, trended data models are smarter. They can see if you are actually living on the edge or if you are truly low risk. That said, FICO 10T adoption is slow. For now, the snapshot strategy is still king for mortgages and auto loans. Finally, a defensive tip. Sometimes people try to simplify their finances by closing old, unused credit cards. In the context of utilization, this is a mistake. Your utilization is calculated on both a per-card basis and an overall basis. If you close a card with a $10,000 limit that has a zero balance, you are removing $10,000 of available credit from your denominator. Your total debt stays the same, but your total limit drops, which means your utilization percentage spikes instantly. Keep old cards open. Put a small recurring subscription on them, like Netflix. Set it to autopay, and let them pad your utilization numbers. They are the ballast keeping your ship steady. Let's recap the protocol. First, stop looking at the due date as the only date that matters. Find your statement closing date. Second, calculate your utilization. You want to be under 30% for good scores and under 10% for excellent scores. Third, 3 days before your statement closes, log in and pay down your balance to a very low number, but ideally not zero if you want to maximize the score. Leave 1% or a small nominal amount. Fourth, let the statement close. The bank reports that low number to the bureaus. Your score jumps or stays high. Finally, pay off that remaining small chunk by the actual due date to avoid interest. It is a two-step payment process that effectively decouples your spending from your credit report. The banking system is built on rules. Most people only learn the rules about fees and interest, but the rules about reporting and data are just as powerful. By taking control of the snapshot, you stop being a victim of the algorithm and start being the manager of it. I want you to try this for 1 month. Pick one card, find the date, pay it down early, and watch your monitoring app. When you see that score jump, come back to this video and leave a comment with how many points you gained. It helps verify the data for everyone else. Thanks for watching Tom Talks Money. I'll see you in the next one.